Okay, who's going to go first? Allez-y.
Ah, ben, je vais commencer. Donc, ça représente quoi pour l'Acadie un renouvellement sur 3 ans d'un montant comme celui-là?
Mais encore une fois, nous sommes très contents d'être ici aujourd'hui pour faire une annonce de 1,5 million de dollars sur une période de 3 ans. On veut s'assurer que les organisations, les municipalités vont avoir accès aux fonds. Ils vont savoir qu'il y a des lignes budgétaires qui peuvent appliquer pour les fonds année après année, puisqu'on veut s'assurer qu'encore une fois, qu'on peut célébrer la fierté de l'Acadie.
Puis il y avait, comme Ginette a dit, il y avait une certaine incertitude quant à l'idée que ça allait être un financement récurrent, que les communautés puissent planer un événement pour l'année prochaine, booker des artistes qui seront disponibles. On comprend que si c'est à la dernière minute, c'est souvent pas possible. Alors, avec un financement pluriannuel comme ça de 1,5 million, au moins ça permet aux bénévoles extraordinaires qui organisent des activités partout de planifier et savoir que le gouvernement va leur appuyer.
I'm wondering, what's your confidence level right now in the leadership of the Prime Minister? This is for both.
Well, first and foremost, I think let's be frank, last week's results in Toronto-St. Paul, the election results were disappointing. We were certainly hoping to maintain that seat. At this point in time, we continue to work hard to making sure that we are there to help support Canadians during their time of need. We realize that people are struggling at this point in time, and as a government, we certainly want to be there to meet their needs, and we continue to put our best efforts forward to make sure that we are going to be there.
So I have full confidence in the Prime Minister. I agree with what Ginette said. The by-election result was disappointing. It's a moment for us as a government to consider why those results were what they were and what we need to do to reassure Canadians that we're focused on their priorities and we're there for them. I have a busy summer of work both in New Brunswick and across the country. I'm focused on that, and I'm looking forward to the return of Parliament in the fall. We had a very productive spring session of Parliament. We adopted a number of important pieces of legislation. So the government is continuing to do the work that we were elected to do, and that's the focus that I'm committed to continuing.
To put it in a New Brunswick context, though, I mean, losing a seat like that would be like losing Caracat. I mean, it's something that would be unthinkable in the past. What sort of maybe internal or even external rethinking and refocusing do you think the party needs right now, and does that include asking hard questions of the person who sits at the top?
Well, again, as I've indicated, and as you've indicated, it was certainly disappointing when we lost Toronto-St. Paul. It certainly wasn't the outcome that any of us were hoping for. And as a result, that's why that we continue to look at ways that we can, again, be there to better help support Canadians. It was a tough night for the Liberals, but again, we continue to do the important work that Canadians are expecting of us.
And I agree with Ginette. Canadians expect the government to do the work of the government, and that's what I'm focused on every week. I feel enormously lucky to be able to serve in government. It's a huge privilege to be able to have the kind of jobs that Ginette and I have, and every day to me is an opportunity to try and contribute something to the country. That's the work I'm focused on. There will obviously have to be a reflection on those by-election results. But I think Canadians expect the government to continue to do the work that they elected us to do. By-elections are by-elections. They're not general elections. To use your example of the Acadian Peninsula, for almost 2 decades it was held by the NDP. So by-elections are by-elections. It doesn't change the government. The government has a job to do. We need to think what those results mean for the work that we've been doing. And that's the work that I know all of us will do over the coming weeks.
Est-ce que vous pouvez répondre en français, s'il vous plaît, pour nous autres, donc la question de quel est votre niveau de confiance envers le premier ministre Trudeau en ce moment et tout ce qui se passe, vos réactions?
Mais encore une fois, comme que je l'ai dit, c'est sûr qu'on était désappointés des résultats qui ont arrivé, les résultats de Toronto-St. Paul's, mais comme gouvernement, comme député, on continue à faire le travail que les Canadiens s'attendent de nous. Nous reconnaissons que les Canadiens ont la difficulté à joindre les deux bouts ces temps-ci, mais comme gouvernement responsable, on va continuer à faire le travail qui est nécessaire pour être là, pour appuyer les Canadiens et Canadiennes d'un bout à l'autre du pays.
Moi, je suis d'accord avec Ginette. Les gens s'attendent que le gouvernement fasse le travail gouvernemental. C'est ça le focus que j'ai. Je m'en vais à des rencontres en Gaspésie, au Bas-Saint-Laurent plus tard cette semaine. Alors moi, je continue de faire mon travail, comme mes collègues d'un bout du pays à l'autre. Moi, j'étais déçu des résultats à Toronto-St. Paul's. Je pense qu'il faut réfléchir comme gouvernement. Le premier ministre l'a bien dit hier à Saint-Jean, à Terre-Neuve et au Labrador, que c'est un moment pour constater la défaite et comprendre qu'est-ce qu'on peut améliorer afin de mieux servir les Canadiens et de focuser, de demeurer concentré sur leurs priorités. C'est ça le travail que moi je fais. Moi, je suis très serein. J'ai hâte aux prochaines semaines de l'été. Je vais me promener à travers le pays. Moi, je me trouve tellement chanceux d'avoir la fonction que j'ai présentement. Je ne veux pas manquer une journée de l'occasion que j'ai été donnée. Alors, j'ai l'intention d'être très occupé, puis j'adore ça.
And for both of you, what was your reaction to Wayne Long calling Trudeau to resign?
Well, again, that would be a question to ask Wayne Long with respect to his comments that he made publicly. Again, we continue to be focused on Canadians and making sure that we can do the best job possible and making sure to support them during some difficult times.
Yeah, I don't speak for Wayne Long. That's a good question to ask him.
You have no reaction to his comments, though? Do you agree, disagree?
I don't think it's constructive for 150 plus Liberal MPs to comment on each other's comments publicly. I'd be very busy all day if I tried to catch up with that. I'm focused on the work that I have to do. I'm fairly busy, and I'll continue to do that work.
Ginette, could you say, do you agree? Do you disagree with
No,
that?
I completely agree with Dominic's comments as well. Again, being ministers, being members of Parliament, we are extremely busy, and I'm taking advantage of this summer, meeting with my constituents, hearing their issues, helping them when I can, and also as a minister, making sure that I, do the job that is expected to me as the Minister of Veterans Affairs.
Do you think it's helpful to the party, an attempt to turn things around when these kind of comments are made?
But if I get what you're doing. It's clever. I sort of say I don't want to comment on Wayne Long's comment, and then you ask me why I don't want to comment, and then I end up making a comment. So if I don't want to comment on Wayne, I think it's constructive for members of Parliament to focus on the work that they have to do. That's what I'm doing, and I'm not going to spend my time commenting on other colleagues' comments.
And to get back to today, for those of us who don't speak French, can you kind of catch us up on what you guys are here for today?
Sure. So today's a really good announcement for the Acadian population and our official language minority communities across the country. We've announced a $1.5 million investment over 3 years to help support Acadian festivals, festivities, to help promote the Acadian culture and tradition. We recognize that every week when it comes around time of August 15th, it is our national holiday here in l'Acadie in Acadia, and this is funding that will be available for the next 3 years, making sure that the not-for-profit organizations, the municipalities, will have access to funding that they know is going to be available to them.
Will this mostly support ongoing events, or is the hope to create new events around Acadian culture?
It can be both, actually. It can be old events, traditional events, and new events. Again, people have to apply through the Department of Canadian Heritage. The monies for this year, of course, have already been allocated because it's just around the corner. But so the funding is for this year and for the next 2 future years.
Obvious question, but can you just talk about how important it is to have that funding to make sure that these things are still happening in our community?
Yeah, if I take a step back in 1994, we had the first World Acadian Congress that was held here in the southeastern part of the province. And that really shed a light on the Acadian culture, the traditions, and the proud nature that we have as Acadians. I think Acadians are very humble, and oftentimes we don't really talk a lot about how proud we are of who we are and the resilience that we have. So it's really important to make sure that we have consistent funding to make sure that we can continue doing the important work and also the educational work that comes with it.
And often the groups that, certainly in my constituency in southeastern New Brunswick, the groups that organize activities around August 15th, they're volunteer groups. They're people who year after year plan to book different artists for musical celebrations. They organize Tintamarre, the sort of parade. Some of them are very small municipalities, and for them, $5,000 for a community celebration is a lot of money. So this is the way for the Government of Canada to support what volunteers are doing. And they'll go and raise money in the community. Some local business will contribute some money. Often if it's a municipal organization or not-for-profit organization, they have a little bit of money of their own, but never enough to do the kind of celebrations that they'd like to organize. So this is a way for us just to support the good work that a lot of people do through their own volunteer efforts.
Do they put in their own funding ask, or are there certain asks that are available for them?
As Dominic indicated, there can be some small community groups that are going to be perhaps applying for small amounts of money, and other groups that are bigger, like Acadie Rock, for example, in Moncton, certainly has a bigger programming for a number of days, so it just really depends on the application and the program that they're putting forward.
It's deliberately flexible to allow a very small organization in a very small community to put together an activity, or larger ones that perhaps attract media or broadcast attention like Acadie Rock or others. I was also very happy that Radio-Canada reversed their decision, which we learned of earlier this spring, to cut the funding for the big televised 15 show on the main Radio-Canada network. That was an important moment for the whole country to see Acadian culture and the vibrancy of the Acadian reality. Including in Quebec and other parts of Canada. The government stabilized the funding for Radio-Canada, and that decision was reversed. I thought that was important as well. That was a bad decision, and I was glad that Radio-Canada corrected it.
You said that funding's already been given out for this year. Do you know how much and how many projects it went towards?
I'm not sure of the exact, it's over 60 projects that I can tell you. And again, the amounts of money, the $1.5 million is $500,000 every year. Okay.
Thank you.
Just one quick, I got one thing from a colleague in Ottawa. I believe this is recent, but immigration officials have moved to deport another 5 members of the Iranian regime that have been found in Canada. Wondering if we could get a reaction to that.
So obviously I'm briefed on some of these removal decisions by the Border Services Agency. For operational reasons, we don't comment on individual cases. There are, in some cases, avenues of appeal that people can exercise, so it's not appropriate to comment on specific cases. I have been very clear with the Canadian Border Services Agency that they need to take their responsibilities in terms of removing from Canada people that have no legal basis to be in Canada, or certainly in the case of people that are identified as having participated in the Iranian regime or have been involved with the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, which we listed as a terrorist entity some weeks ago. I would expect them to put a priority focus on this, and I have confidence that that's exactly what they're doing.
The officials found that there were, I believe the number is 14 well-founded cases of people involved in the Iranian regime in Canada. What's your level of concern over that number?
Well, if again, I have to see the details on those alleged 14 cases. So you're asking me to comment. I don't have the details on one or let alone 13 more of those specific cases before me. But in general terms, the Border Services Agency understands their responsibilities in terms of keeping Canadians safe and in terms of removing from Canada those that do not have a lawful reason to be here. And in the case of those that have been involved with the Iranian regime, which is one of the world's largest state sponsors of terrorist activity, obviously in terms of a priority for the Border Services Agency, we would expect them to do that work, and I'm very reassured that they're doing exactly that.
Thank you.